My wife mocked me in front of her friends. I couldn't take it anymore, so I showed her no mercy. Hey Reddit, it's my first time posting here. I've been stumbling upon this subreddit quite frequently on TikTok and Instagram, so I thought I'd join in and share my frustrations. I need an outlet to vent because I am beyond angry. I ask myself, what do people actually want? I pour my heart and soul into being the best husband I can possibly be for my wife Nora, yet all I seem to receive in return is disrespect, especially from her and her circle of friends. A little bit of backstory about me and my wife. Nora and I met during our college days at a lively party thrown by one of her friends. There was an instant connection between us and we hit it off right away. We exchanged numbers that night, and shortly after I took her out on our first date. Fast forward and here we are, happily married for about a year. I'm 30 years old and Nora is 29. Professionally, I work as a software engineer in a prominent tech company, which fortunately means I earn quite well. However, despite my efforts to provide for us and create a comfortable life, I've noticed a concerning pattern. My wife and her friends have developed a habit of mocking me, whether I'm present or not. And what's worse is that Nora never stands up for me in these situations. Nora's behavior and attitude towards work and responsibility have been a constant source of frustration for me. Despite all that I do for her, she seems to take it all for granted. It's like she has gotten accustomed to me handling everything, from paying bills to taking care of household matters. The problem isn't just that she can't hold down a job, it's her whole approach towards work and life. Even back when we were dating in college, Nora has always displayed signs of laziness and a lack of commitment. She would jump from one job to another and never stayed at a place for more than a month or two. It's a cycle that has always repeated itself over the years, and it's incredibly frustrating to witness. She barely graduated from college, and most of her projects were done by me out of fear that she wouldn't put in the effort herself. What's even more concerning is Nora's tendency to avoid responsibility and shift blame onto others. She never takes ownership of her actions or lack thereof. Instead, she blames professors, lecturers, co-workers, bosses, anyone but herself. It's always some excuse about why she can't stay at a job or why things aren't working out for her. It's always someone else's fault according to her, whether it's the job being too stressful, her co-workers not liking her, her professors back in college failing her on purpose, or her boss having a personal vendetta against her. Her lazy attitude towards job searching is equally infuriating. I have to practically push her to even start looking for a job, and when she does, it's half-hearted at best. It's like she expects everything to be handed to her without putting in the effort or taking any responsibility for her own success or failures. Nora's friends have also really messed with her head and keep feeding her outdated ideas about what men and women should do. They've convinced her that I should be the one paying all the bills while she just sits at home looking pretty. It's ridiculous, especially since we don't have any kids to take care of. I've tried explaining to her that it doesn't make sense for her to stay home all day doing nothing, but she keeps pushing for it and arguing about it. It's just absurd because these friends of hers are single and pay their bills themselves. They constantly complain and moan about how nobody wants them, but who would want a person that thinks like that? Before she quit her last job, she was only there for 3 months. Nora's friends would constantly make fun of me for not being man enough to let her stay at home. They'd call me selfish and greedy and say I make good money so I should let Nora stay home. I've told Nora time and again that I don't like her friends and don't want her around them, but she just brushes it off and says I'm insecure because I don't have many friends myself. But the thing is, I would rather not have any friends that be friends with the kind of people Nora associates with. Now her friends also have this crazy idea that a guy should fight for a cheating partner to prove his love. They say if a man doesn't fight for his partner after she cheats, then he never really loved her. It's nonsense, and I've tried telling Nora that, but she won't listen. When I ask her friends about the double standard of loyalty between men and women, and if that means a woman should fight for a cheating man, they accuse me of being old-fashioned or even sexist, and that it's not the same for women and men. When I then ask them if that means that women and men aren't equal, they again fumble, and the only reply they ever have is to say I'm sexist. Nora deciding to stay at home because of what her friend said has caused a real headache at home. Even though she's supposed to take care of things now, like cleaning up, cooking, and doing the dishes, I'm the one stuck doing it most of the time. It's so annoying to come back from work tired and find the house a mess, especially when Nora could easily help out but chooses not to. To make matters worse, Nora invites her friends over frequently, and they leave the place even messier without lifting a finger to clean up. When I bring this up with Nora, she brushes it off, claiming that I'm being too demanding and don't understand the challenges of being a stay-at-home wife. It is a constant battle trying to get her to see the importance of contributing to the household, especially when she's not bringing in any income. What's even more infuriating is her friends' influence on her attitude towards accountability. They've convinced her that she doesn't need to be answerable to anyone, not even her spouse. There was a time when Nora packed up and left for a weekend getaway with her friends without informing me. According to them, sharing her location or letting me know about her plans is controlling and sexist. They've painted me as an abusive partner just because I expect basic communication and honesty in our relationship. For me, it's not about control. It's about safety and trust. If Nora doesn't share her whereabouts with me, how can I ensure her safety if something goes wrong? It's common sense and respect for each other's well-being, yet her friends have twisted this into an issue of control and oppression, which is just ridiculous and absurd. Communication and honesty should be the foundation of any healthy relationship, but it seems like these values have been lost on Nora and her friends. For the longest time, I put up with all of this because I loved my wife. Sure, she had her flaws. She was easily influenced by her friends. She could be lazy at times, but she was still the woman I married, and I didn't mind picking up the slack. I understood that everyone has their struggles, and I was willing to support her through it all. The tipping point for me was like a floodgate bursting open after being filled with anger and frustration for so long. It wasn't just one thing that pushed me over the edge. It was a whole pile of stuff that kept adding up until I couldn't take it anymore. Looking back, I see now that I should have put my foot down from the get-go, but I guess I let it slide because I didn't want to rock the boat and ruin Nora's relationship with her friends. Their teasing was relentless, and they made sure it hit me in every part of my life. They'd make fun of the things I loved, calling me a nerd or a weirdo, and trashing my hobbies like they were the most ridiculous things in the world. And my awkwardness? They made that their favorite target, especially in big groups or gatherings. They'd laugh at my every stumble, joke about my lack of social skills, and it was like they enjoyed seeing me uncomfortable. What hurt the most was seeing Nora join in or laugh along. She knew how much their teasing bothered me, but she'd just ignore it or even add to it sometimes. It felt like a slap in the face, like she cared more about fitting in with her friends than how I felt. Even when she saw that I was upset, she wouldn't speak up or ask them to stop. It started to make me wonder if she really respected me, or if I was just a joke to her. The mockery didn't just stop at my hobbies or my social skills. They also took aim at my relationship with Nora, and they would put it down with their hurtful words. They'd throw around the word simp, like it was an insult of the highest order. They would use it to belittle me and make me feel emasculated. Their tone was never playful or friendly. It was always rude, derogatory, and dripping with disdain. They'd say I was submissive and weak, that I'd do anything Nora asked without question. The way they talked about it made it clear they thought less of me for it. Nora would most times laugh along with them and reinforce their hurtful comments instead of standing up for me. It hurt so much to see her join in because it was like she agreed with them on how they viewed me. One particularly painful incident happened at one of her friend's birthday party. It had been a large gathering, and after it ended, I wanted us to leave, but Nora insisted we stay for a while because no one was leaving yet, and then they started openly mocking me for being a simp. Instead of shutting it down, Nora joined in the mockery and started listing times and instances where I had accommodated her wishes or put her needs first. She was just openly airing our private moments for everyone's entertainment. They didn't stop there. They also took shots at my intelligence. Despite being smart, they'd compare me to Sheldon from Young Sheldon in a very demeaning way, calling me a weirdo because of it. They made it seem like being smart was a flaw and would prefer to mock me rather than appreciate my intelligence. They didn't just tease me about my hobbies or social skills. It felt like they had a personal grudge against every part of my life, no matter how good or important. It was like they were on a mission to nitpick and ridicule every single thing just for the sake of it. Take my job in the tech industry, for example. Instead of acknowledging the perks of having a well-paying tech job, they spun it into something negative. According to them, tech professionals were reclusive control freaks who enjoyed being abusive, which is such a ridiculous stereotype with no basis in reality. Even my appearance wasn't off limits to their mockery. Despite staying fit, hitting the gym regularly, and taking care of myself, they found ways to turn it into a joke. They'd mock my blonde hair, comparing me to a Ken doll in a way that was downright insulting. They even criticized my gym routine, saying that people in tech shouldn't care about fitness, which made absolutely no sense at all. One particular incident that really got under my skin was when they messed with something as serious as the ownership of our home. This house was a gift from my mom after we got married, and naturally it was in my name due to my mom's reservations about Nora. She doesn't like Nora. Now, my mom wasn't one to stir up trouble or act petty, but she did want to make sure the house stayed under my ownership, which I totally understood. At first, Nora didn't have any issues with this arrangement. But then, after chatting with her friends, they planted this crazy idea in her head that everything I owned automatically became hers as my partner, while everything she owned remained solely hers. It was like they were trying to rewrite the rules of partnership. They told her that as my partner, she deserved total ownership of the house. This ridiculous idea they filled her head with has caused unnecessary drama and put pressure on Nora to demand full ownership of the house and completely ignore my mom's intentions. Despite me trying to find a middle ground and suggesting joint ownership, Nora and her friends kept pushing for their unrealistic demands. When I stood firm and refused to budge because why the hell would I give you full ownership of a house I was gifted? They finally told Nora to accept the compromise, but the damage had already been done. Their meddling and manipulation had strained our relationship so much that I was no longer willing to give in to their unreasonable requests, and I refused to even add Nora's name on the deed for joint ownership. The breaking point for me was yesterday, Friday night, a night that turned into a nightmare. Nora had insisted I join her and her friends for drinks and dinner. Now, I'm not a fan of Nora's friends, and the thought of spending an evening with them didn't exactly thrill me. They weren't my crowd, they were Nora's. Still, Nora kept pushing, saying I needed to socialize more. Reluctantly, I agreed. Nora's friends said they were hungry and suggested we all go to a restaurant before heading to a bar to drink. Nora told me she was hungry too, so we all agreed. We ended up at a fancy restaurant, the kind that's a bit pricey but not too extravagant for me. I noticed Nora's friends ordering really expensive dishes, and it struck me as odd considering their modest incomes. However, I shrugged it off, because I thought maybe someone else in the group had told them they would foot the bill. Nora ordered something pricey too, but I didn't mind covering it. After all, I wanted her to enjoy herself. During dinner, though, they turned the evening into a roast fest, mocking and gossiping about me right in front of my face. I chose to ignore them, focusing on my food and trying not to let their negativity ruin the meal. But then after we were done eating, the waiter asked if we were getting separate checks. To my absolute shock, Nora's friends declared that I was footing the bill for everyone. That was the tipping point for me. I couldn't contain my anger any longer. I demanded to know why they assumed I would foot the bill when I never agreed to it in the first place. Their feeble excuse? Because I earned a steady six-figure salary while nobody else at the table did. That excuse was beyond ridiculous. Just because I earned well didn't mean I was obligated to cover everyone's expenses, especially not after enduring their mockery and disrespect all night. It wasn't about the money. It was about respect and decency, things they clearly lacked. Well, things escalated when Nora then sided with her friends and insisted that I should pay. I refused because I was adamant that I wouldn't finance a meal for people who had just spent the evening mocking and belittling me. They fired back, insulting me further, saying I couldn't take a joke and that I was weak. I stood my ground, demanded separate checks, and only paid for Nora and me. Of course, I left a hefty tip for the waiter because they didn't deserve the hassle caused by Nora's friends. As I was about to leave, I gave Nora an ultimatum. Either she left with me or it was over. At first, she wanted to insist she stayed, but one look at my face and she knew I was really angry, and so she reluctantly came with me. When we got home, Nora unleashed her anger and blew up at me. She called me stingy and selfish for not paying despite having the means. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money, it was about principle. But she dismissed it. She said her friends were just joking and I was too insecure to handle it. I just ignored her and went to bed because I didn't know what else to say. She had joined her friends in humiliating me and was now mad that I didn't want to bend over backwards for her anymore. The next morning, things were still very frosty to say the least. She didn't even bother with a simple good morning and continued her silent treatment. I decided not to go out of my way to make breakfast like I usually did on weekends. We ignored each other for hours until she finally approached me. She laid down her ultimatum. If I wanted her to stop ignoring me, I had to cough up the money to cover her friend's extravagant dinner bill. She argued that they were still fuming over what they saw as my embarrassing behavior and selfishness. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything that had transpired, she wanted me to fork over money to appease her friends' wounded egos. I didn't beat around the bush with my response. I flatly refused, telling her to forget it. She then threatened to withdraw money from our joint account to settle the bill. That was a line I wouldn't let her cross. I warned her sternly that if she dared touch our shared funds without my consent, she'd better start looking for a job to replace the money. Naturally, my refusal set her off again, and she went right back to giving me the cold shoulder. So yes, that is my dilemma. I'm currently writing this from the kitchen LOL. I feel so angry and disrespected. Frankly, I feel like an idiot. Any advice on how to navigate this whole shit show would be appreciated though. Thanks for listening. Update. Hey everyone, it's been about 5 hours since I posted about my anger and frustration here, LOL. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your overwhelming support and advice. Honestly, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did, but your comments and messages have really resonated with me. Many of you pointed out something I hadn't fully realized before, that my wife's actions and behaviors have shown a lack of love and respect towards me. It's eye-opening to see so many people echoing the same sentiments I've been feeling. Your validation of my anger and frustration has been very reassuring, and now I know that I'm not insecure, and definitely not the one at fault. Some of you mentioned that I should have ended things long ago, and looking back, I can see that staying in this relationship was a mistake. Nora's association with toxic friends and her disregard for my feelings are clear red flags that I should have heeded earlier. It's a very tough realization, but I appreciate the honesty in your comments. I've also received some creative suggestions on how to handle this situation, haha, and a lot of you said I should seek legal advice. I'm definitely going to consult with a lawyer to understand my options moving forward. It's only been about 5 hours since my last update, so as for what's happening right now, not much. Nora is still distant and getting ready to go out without telling me where. Once she leaves, I plan to secure our joint account to prevent any further misuse of funds. I'm 100% sure she's going out with those friends of hers, and there is no way I'm letting her spend my money on such horrible people. It's time for me to stop being complacent and take control of my life again. I've also realized that this relationship has reached its breaking point, and I'm definitely getting a divorce, but I won't let Nora off easily, considering how much this situation has affected me. I'll try and keep you all updated as things progress. Thanks again for the support and advice. I truly appreciate it. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me and I'm back with another update. I appreciate all the support and advice from everyone in the comments and DMs. It's been quite a ride since my last update, so let me fill you in on what's been happening. After the incident with the joint account, Nora was furious when she found out I had withdrawn all the money. She was particularly upset because she had promised to cover her friend's expenses for the evening. This situation led to a very heated argument where she accused me of being unfair and controlling. In response, I suggested she get a job if she didn't want me controlling her. I told her that we would now only use the joint account for bills. This didn't sit well with her, and she threatened to leave if I didn't transfer the money back immediately. I stood my ground and ignored her and just went to my office and locked myself in. She didn't expect that. She had expected me to relent as I usually did. Since then, I've been finding ways to play harmless pranks on Nora. For instance, I strategically placed realistic-looking fake bugs around the house, knowing she's terrified of them. The reactions were priceless, and when she confronted me about it, I turned the tables by calling her insecure for not being able to take a joke and that I was just playing around. Another prank I've been pulling is setting multiple alarms in the morning. Nora tends to sleep in, while I have to wake up early for work. Although I used to avoid alarms because they disturbed her sleep, I've started using them to ensure I don't oversleep. She's been complaining because she's a light sleeper and it's been driving her crazy, but I've insisted that they're necessary for my job. I've also taken my revenge on Nora to another level by playing mind games and making her doubt her own sanity. How do I do it? It's all about subtly shifting things around our house, and when Nora notices and asks me about it, I act like I have no idea what she's talking about. Sometimes I'll even pretend to be confused and question her memory, making her wonder if she's losing it. But that's just the beginning. I've been orchestrating conversations and plans with Nora, only to deny ever having those discussions later on. It's like gaslighting on steroids. This constant manipulation makes Nora second-guess herself, and makes her wonder if she can trust her own mind, or if she's just imagining things. Last night was the cherry on top. Nora actually mentioned feeling like she might have dementia. It genuinely took everything in me not to laugh. The fact that I've pushed her to question her mental health is both twisted and satisfying. It's cruel, I know, but she deserves it. While I've been playing mind games with Nora, I've also been strategically planning for our separation. It's not just about divorcing her. I want to ensure that she's left completely alone once I'm out of the picture. I've already reached out to my lawyer and started working on divorce papers. The thing is, I haven't told Nora any of this. She thinks we're just going through a rough patch, oblivious to the fact that I'm planning to leave her for good. It might seem harsh, but I believe it's necessary for both of us to move on separately. One of the biggest challenges I'm facing is the house. Legally, the house is mine, but it's also listed as Nora's primary address, which means I can't simply kick Nora out without going through a lengthy eviction process. I don't want to be stuck living with her for another 6 months or more. That's why I'm seriously considering selling the house without her knowledge. It might seem drastic, but it's the most efficient way to ensure a clean break. If I were to do that, I'd have to move back in with my mom temporarily, until I either get an apartment or buy another house. It's a pretty practical plan if I say so myself. I know these decisions might seem cold, but I've thought them through carefully. My priority is to move on from this toxic situation and build a better future for myself, even if it means making tough choices along the way. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while, but here's the latest update. Life has been pretty slow lately, and I honestly forgot to update, so my apologies for that. Now on to the actual update. Nora is finally out of my house. It's something I should have done ages ago, but I finally took the step and kicked her out. How did I do it? Well, I decided that if I was going to kick her out, I needed to do it with one last big statement. So I executed what you could call the ultimate prank, although it wasn't really meant as a prank, but more as a way to punish her. I swapped out her shampoo and conditioner with a hair removal product, and you can probably guess what happened next. She used it several times before realizing what was happening, which I found surprising because the hair remover does have a distinct smell and reaction. As a result, she ended up with a really bad haircut, with chunks of her hair falling out. She was so scared that she had alopecia that she insisted on going to the hospital to get tested. I had to hold back my laughter every time I saw her hair. For about a week, she didn't even leave the house because of her embarrassment over the haircut. During this time, she started hinting that she wanted her friends to visit her. Previously, her friends used to come over frequently and they would mess up the house but never clean. Their visits stopped after the incident at the restaurant where I refused to pay for them. I knew her friends would only mock me more if they came over, so I refused to let them. Instead, I suggested that she visit them. At first, she hesitated because of her haircut, but I pointed out that she could easily cover it with a hoodie or something and go see them. She thought it was a good idea and immediately got ready to leave. Her friends came to pick her up, and I took that opportunity to pack up all her belongings and put them outside on the porch. I also packed a bag for myself and went to stay with my mom to avoid dealing with her screaming and tantrums when she returned and found her things outside. It was my way of saying enough is enough, and I'm moving on without her drama. After settling in at my mom's house, I realized that Nora wasn't the only one who deserved consequences. Her toxic friends had played a significant role in influencing her behavior. Most of them were either unfaithful in their relationships or were with their partners for all the wrong reasons. When I dug into Nora's phone and saw their group chat, it wasn't just mockery I found. It was a treasure trove of secrets and backstabbing. I took screenshots, lots of them. I took to social media, Instagram, and Facebook, where I found their partners' profiles. For those with private Instagram accounts, I reached out to their close friends on either Instagram or Facebook and sent them the damning screenshots. Was it harsh, cruel, and unnecessary of me to do that? Yes. But did they deserve it? Absolutely yes. What shocked me even more was how they would talk behind each other's backs in private messages. Despite claiming to be best friends, they were ruthless when it came to gossiping about one another. I collected evidence of this too, sending it back to them so they could see the toxicity within their own circle. But my actions didn't stop there. I sent Nora a final message, ending things definitively. I made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate her toxic behavior anymore, demanded a divorce, and informed her that her belongings were waiting for her on the porch. I knew the chaos that would follow, especially from Nora, so I turned off my phone and went to bed early. The next morning, my mom filled me in on the shit show that went down. Nora had shown up at my mom's house and caused such a disturbance that the neighbors had to call the police. I couldn't believe I slept through all of that. When I asked my mom why she didn't wake me up, she said she knew I wanted to steer clear of Nora, which I appreciated, but I still felt a bit anxious. I was just glad that Nora's meltdown didn't turn violent. I guess I was utterly drained from everything that had transpired. When I finally did turn on my phone to check it, I was bombarded with messages from Nora. Apologies, begging, insults, and threats. It was clear she was spiraling, and I chose not to engage with her. I spent the day at my mom's to avoid any confrontation at home because who knows, she might have been waiting for me to just show up. 2 days later, I returned to my house and changed the locks. Nora's meltdown was evident. Some of her belongings that she didn't take were scattered on the porch, and the windshield of her car, which I had bought but was in my name, was smashed. I didn't even bother trying to make her pay for it. I took care of it myself, changed the locks, and retreated back to my mom's, while still ignoring all her attempts to reach me. Update. Hey Reddit pals, it's been a bit since my last update. I want to say thanks for all the support and laughs you've given me. It's been a wild ride, to say the least. Not much has changed on the Nora front. I'm still not responding to her per my lawyer's advice to document everything. She's going to be served soon, and I'm sure that'll set her off again. But honestly, I couldn't care less. I managed to get in touch with a few acquaintances who are closer to Nora's circle than mine. They spilled the beans that Nora's been desperately calling around looking for a place to crash. Turns out no one's biting. Her so-called friends have turned their backs on her because they feel it's her fault their cheating escapades got exposed. They're all in hot water with their partners or facing breakups, thanks to the evidence I dropped. Plus, they realized they weren't as tight-knit as they pretended, with all the backstabbing and gossip. Now, I'm not proud to admit it, but I couldn't help feeling a little satisfied hearing this. It's like karma served up a cold dish, and Nora's getting a taste of her own medicine. I also find it amusing that she hasn't tried involving the cops. Maybe she's clueless about the eviction process and doesn't realize that since she has my house listed as her primary address, legally I can't kick her out. But I'm thankful for that, because I wouldn't have been able to stand it if I had to house her for at least 6 months more. Meanwhile, I've kept up with my little pranks. I signed Nora and her buddies up for a flood of spam emails. Their inboxes are probably overflowing by now. And to top it off, I played a little trick by putting Nora's number on those bogus celebrity fan sites, claiming it's some celebrity's leaked contact information. People fall for that nonsense, so her phone must be blowing up with random calls, but hey, anything to keep her distracted, right? Update. Hey Reddit folks, it's been a minute since my last update, and I apologize for the silence. I've been dealing with the whole court ordeal, and let me tell you, it's been quite the roller coaster. The good news? I emerged from it with a major win. Nora did manage to snag a bit of early money, but it's peanuts compared to what I retained. Let me break it down for you. After getting served, we went through the court process. Thanks to my solid evidence and the fact that I had a really good lawyer, things went in my favor swiftly. Nora got a small chunk of early money, but thankfully it won't make a dent. I got to keep my house and a bunch of other assets, plus the court ruled that Nora had to cough up for the smashed windshield. Remember, I initially said I wouldn't press her for it, but since she got some early cash, I brought it up, and she begrudgingly had to pay. Seeing her fume about it was just an added bonus. As for Nora's living situation after the whole shit show, she's pretty much homeless. She's either crashing on couches or seeking refuge in shelters. She admitted this to me herself, LOL, probably to get me to pity her. And after the court drama wrapped, she cursed me out, blamed me for everything. Then in a weird and bizarre twist, she tried to plead for me to take her back. Seriously? One moment you're hurling insults, the next you want a reconciliation? I shut that down real quick, telling her it was over for good. Now I'm focusing on myself. I'm diving into self-improvement mode. I don't plan on dating anytime soon given the drama I've been through. It's all about my personal growth from here on out. Huge shout out to everyone who supported me through this wild ride. This will probably be my last update. This Reddit post exceeded my expectations, and I'm grateful for the amazing support. Thank you all so much. Update. Hey Reddit pals, I'm back with another update, despite saying that my last one would be the final chapter. It's heartwarming to know that many of you are still interested in what's going on in my life. So here's a little glimpse. Since cutting Nora and her toxic circle out of my life, things have been significantly better. No more mocking, no more negativity about my hobbies or interests. I took the opportunity to deep clean the house, and let me tell you, maintaining cleanliness without Nora around to create chaos has been a breeze. On the work front, I actually snagged a promotion. It's been a very rewarding validation of my hard work and dedication. As for dating, well, that's still on hold. It might be a while before I dip my toes back into that scene, but I'm okay with that. Self-care and self-prioritization are key right now, LOL. As for Nora's whereabouts, I'm not entirely sure. Last I heard, she was still struggling with homelessness, which is good for her, I guess. It seems she's stuck in the same cycle of job hopping and facing challenges in employment due to her qualifications and work history. Despite everything, I'm looking forward to a positive future. Thank you, Reddit, for all your support and interest in my life. Here's to hoping for brighter days ahead for all of us.